Hello everybody, welcome to another tier list. Last time we talked about the rare qualities in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX. This time we're going to be talking about hold items. With the introduction of rare qualities, I feel like the impact that your held item can have is kind of forgotten, but when you look at what's available, some hold items have effects that are so much more impactful than most rare qualities. This, along with the fact that you can equip them and unequip them at will, makes them powerful tools. But which ones are more powerful than the others? Well, I'm going to go through each of the item specifics that aren't explained in the game, and mention any good syncrasies, Sure, that the item has to certain moves, abilities, or rare qualities. Then of course I'm going to slap it on a tier list because people love that. Also, I've gone out of my way to experience all of these items, so I don't miss any little detail that I missed with the rare qualities like before. Anyway, let's get to it. We're going to go in alphabetical order, not in best to worst or any other order. First up, the Big Eater Belt. What a start. It doubles the belly you gain when eating food. Not quite as good as Small Stomach, but Small Stomach is OP anyway. It's good for any adventure, and you only have to equip it the moment you eat something, so you can also use something alongside it. A. The Cover Band. This has the Pokemon holding the item take hits for partners when they're at low HP. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a huge fan. It's okay, but if you're strategizing which Pokemon will take which hits, it'll suck when you have, say, a Swampert's holding it, and it takes a Grass-type hit that was aimed at your low HP Blaziken. Also, most Pokemon knock you out in 3 or so hits near the end of the game anyway, so you're not going to be covering much. C. Defense Scarf. Alright, now hold on, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. The Defense Scarf, the Power Band, Special Band, Mach Ribbon, and Zinc Band all increase their corresponding stats by 10%. And while this is decent and useful, there's other items that boost these stats by a lot more, and they're really just the items that you use. If you have nothing else, you'll probably use them early in game until you get anything better. All of them go to C. Detect Band. This boosts your evasiveness. It's not an actual stat like the others, so I felt it needed special mention. Also, being able to avoid the occasional attack completely is a little better than a tiny stat boost. B. Efficient Bandana. When this is equipped, you'll sometimes not use PP when using a move. Max Elixirs are extremely common. Use them. C. Explosive Band. You'll explode sometimes when you're hit. No. F. Fickle Specs. When equipped, it boosts the critical hit rate when you're using a different move than the turn before. This is interesting. It'd be better if it didn't require moves to be immediately the next turn, because you won't find yourself swapping moves that quickly much, since there's always usually one ideal move for the situation. C. I promise we're gonna get some better ones soon. Fierce Bandana. When this item is equipped, the power of moves is greatly increased. So even though it's a bit of a weird description and a different description than like the Power Bandana and all that, it's effectively saying that it's a 10% increase to both of your attack stats. And see, this is one of the reasons that hold items that increase one stat are kind of bad. This is just plainly better. It's a decent alternative to the Munch Belt as well if you don't have the belly for it. B. Friend Bow. Pokemon you battle are more likely to join you, and strong Pokemon won't join you unless you're holding this. This is a very important item. While it's not technically useful for dungeon exploration itself, recruiting Pokemon is such an important part of the game. Plus, I've said it many times, power in numbers. Also, strong Pokemon are almost hilariously overleveled, so if you recruit one, you're kinda set for life. S. Goggle Specs. When this is equipped, traps on the floor become visible. This gets rid of a lot of the luck aspect of exploring dungeons, so it's nice to have one around if there's nothing better. It does have to be equipped to the leader though, so it prevents the use of items like the Friend Bow. B. Heal Ribbon. Speeds up natural HP recovery. So when walking around normally, you recover 1 HP every 2 steps. With this equipped, you gain 3 HP every 5 steps, which is not quite a double increase, but it's a little bit more. I hardly find myself needing to rely on quick HP recovery to get by, and this is a small boost with all things considered. C. Heavy Rotation Specs. Boosts the crit rate when you're using the same move as the turn before. Basically the opposite of the Fickle Specs. This one is a lot better since you'll find yourself using the same move in a row a lot more often than a different move. And it's decent for boss fights since you'll be constantly using the same move that does the most damage. B. Insomnicsope. Prevents the wearer from sleep, yawning, or nightmare. And by extension, puppet, since you need to be asleep to get the puppet status. This is too situational to be that useful. Better than nothing, but just barely. F. Joy Ribbon. Every 5 steps, you gain 1 experience. Obviously, this can add up, and it's much more useful the earlier in the game you use it, but the addition of the Makihita Dojo makes it a bit obsolete. On your average floor, you'll probably gain around 25 experience or so depending on the dungeon. C. Lock-on Specs. The wearer's thrown items will never miss. Well, this is certainly nice. Thrown items seem to have an accuracy of like 75% or so. Unfortunately, it doesn't prevent Pokemon from catching thrown items, which happens quite often. This can be comboed with the rare quality thrown item boost to give some nice consistent damage. However, when it comes to items that specifically boost the usefulness of thrown items, there's one that's a bit better. It's still good though. B. Lucky Ribbon. Prevents the wearer from taking critical hits. In this game, crits aren't that much of a damage boost, and they don't happen against you enough to be consistently helpful. F. Mobile Scarf. Enables the wearer to walk through walls and water at the cost of belly. Ooh boy, this one has a lot to it. It's considered by many people to be one of the best items for dungeoneering in the game. There are also a lot of little details that affect its usefulness. So first off, it only decreases your belly in walls, not when you're over water, fire, or pits. Second, it allows you to cross through walls diagonally without sacrificing belly. While I wouldn't recommend its use in a team since it'll split you off, you don't really need a team with this item since you can freely escape any encounter by just walking through a wall. If you unequip it in a wall, you'll be warped randomly around the floor, which can be a strategy to find the stairs quickly. If you plan on using it, I highly recommend either of the rare qualities of Food Finder or Small Stomach, or just come into the dungeon with a lot of apples, though the former is your only choice if you're going through Joyous Tower and Purity Forest. Not that you can bring the Mobile Scarf in or anything. S. Munch Belt. Increases your attack and special attack by 30% at the cost of quicker belly depletion. So this sounds like quite the trade-off at first, but let me explain the specifics. Normally by walking, every 7 steps, you will lose 1 belly. With this equipped, you lose belly every 5 steps, so it drains a little bit quicker. But one strategy you can use is just equipping the item when you need it, attacking, and then unequipping it. Also, if you're fighting a boss, it's practically impossible to run out of belly, making it very useful for them. It works well with the rare qualities Food Finder and Small Stomach. A. No stick cap. Prevents items from getting sticky. Note that it will not unstick items that are already sticky. This is another one of those items that you only use if you have absolutely nothing else. Also, it's completely outclassed by the Trap Scarf and the Goggle Specs, since traps are the only source of stickiness. C. Nullify Bandanna. Prevents the user's ability from working. Now, I'm thinking of all the available abilities in the game, and the only actual useful effect you would get from equipping it yourself would be negating Slackoth and Slacking's ability, which only lets them use a move every 2 turns. Or you could negate a weather-related ability like Tyranitar's Sandstream and not have to take that damage, but why would you use Tyranitar if you didn't want the Sandstream? I don't know. However, what you can do is throw it at enemies, and if they catch it, it'll negate their ability. This can get rid of a few annoying abilities like Speed Boost or like Water Absorb, Volt Absorb, but I'd struggle to even describe this as a held item at that rate because it's more of a hindering weapon. Plus you have the Nullify Orb, which just does it for the entire dungeon, so I don't know. Also, I'll admit, I don't know if it works on bosses. If it does, I'd put it in B, but I don't think it does. F. Pass Scarf. Enables the wearer to pass off physical moves and pass them on to nearby Pokemon. Reduces belly by 1 time every time it happens. So while this probably won't be useful if you're working in a team, this is another situation where you probably won't need a team with it. The only requirements for it to activate is the move needs to be physical and only target the holder, so Earthquake, for instance, won't work. If there's not a Pokemon nearby you, you'll just pass it to no one and you'll still take no damage, so don't worry about that. S. Pecha Scarf. Prevents poisoning. It's too niche. F. Persim Band. Prevents confusion. Now this is a good status to prevent. Of course it blocks moves like Supersonic, but its real usefulness comes with preventing self-inflicted confusion. The two moves that do this are Outrage and Thrash. I don't think I need to tell you how powerful multi-hit moves are in this game, and Outrage is a very commonly learnt move through the move learner in the post-game. Although these moves only hit 2 to 3 times, they have much higher accuracy than other multi-hit moves to make up for it, making Rapid Bullseye not required. A. Phase Ribbon. The wearer can ignore topography like water and pits, I don't know why they use a different word there than they do for the Mobile Scarf, and it can break walls at the cost of belly. So it's kind of like the Mobile Scarf, without the main advantage that going through walls gives you, which is escaping enemies. Although I suppose it will let your team come with you, but it's definitely not nearly as useful. B. Pierce Band. Oh baby, here we go. Thrown items pierce both walls and Pokemon. Unfortunately, you won't be able to throw the Nullify Band at enemies anymore. I know, sucks pretty badly. But you can throw spikes to deal damage to a bunch of enemies. But the real use here is throwing stat boosters. So if you didn't know, you can throw a protein, a joy seed, or anything like that to force the target it's thrown at to ingest it. If you line up your partners in a hallway, wear the Pierce Band, then throw the item at them, its effect will extend to all of your partners. This, of course, is nutty bonkers. S. Prosper Ribbon. Heals bad statuses and restores 5 HP when picking up money. This is the definition of situational. I suppose money isn't that rare, but if you're worried about a certain status or HP, there's better things to equip. F. Recovery Scarf. The wearer recovers more quickly from temporary statuses. So it doesn't extend to things that last the whole floor like poisoning or burning. I'd argue that this is a bit more useful than the items that just prevent one specific status, because there are a lot of temporary statuses. Paralyzation, Infatuation, Encore, Taunt, Confusion, Sleep, Freeze, the list goes on. But still C. Reunion Cape. Warps you near your teammates if you get separated from them. This feels a bit situational, but if you want to Mobile Scarf through a wall, then equip this to your partners, feel free to. It counters Warp Traps specifically, plus a few moves like Whirlwind and Dragon Tail, though these usually aren't big deals. C. Scope Lens. Boosts the wearer's crit rate. It's a more all-encompassing crit boost than the Fickle Specs and Heavy Rotation Specs, but it's also not as effective as those. This can be almost lumped into other held items that boost a single stat. C. Sneak Scarf. The wearer will be able to walk next to a sleeping enemy without waking up. I cannot stress how much this doesn't matter. Just walk around them. F. Stamina Band. The wearer's belly empties more slowly. So remember that stat I gave earlier, using 1 belly per 7 steps? This doubles that to 1 belly per 14 steps. Certainly not bad. This makes hunger not as much of a concern, however it still drains normally when using linked moves or passing through walls. B. Tight Belt. Belly won't empty at all unless the wearer uses linked moves or passes through walls. So hearing that, I'm sure you're wondering why the Stamina Band even exists. Well, this item is super rare, but of course it's just better than the Stamina Band in every way. A. Trap Scarf. Traps the wearer steps on won't go off. Basically a different version of the Goggle Specs. B. Twist Band. Prevents all of the user's stats from being lowered. This is another one that has a lot of specifics to it. So first off, enemy moves like Growl and Memento won't work, which is all fine and dandy. But similar to the Persim Band, the main use here is for self-inflicted stat decreases. Suddenly, very powerful moves like Leaf Storm and, probably most important, Draco Meteor have no downside. Draco Meteor, especially since it's a room-clearing move and every single dragon type can learn it through the move tutor. But also consider the move Shell Smash. Double boosts to attack, special attack, and movement speed, and now, with no downside of the double lowers to your defenses. There's a lot of different moves this can be useful for, and while the moves might not be as powerful as multi-hit strategies, it definitely opens up a lot of options. A. Warp Scarf. When equipped, it sometimes warps the wearer somewhere on the floor. Not an on-command warp like you can pull off with the Mobile Scarf, but it can still be used to speed up exploring a bit. And assuming you're not using RNG manipulation and you're not a speedrunner, not useful. C. Weather Band. Shields the wearer from weather. Note that this won't negate the boost from received attacks, such as fire-type moves in sunny weather, since that's technically an effect on the opponent, not yourself. This can be nice for exploring more weather-prone dungeons such as Sky Tower, or if you want to utilize weather such as hail for yourself but don't want your non-immune types to take damage. B. X-ray specs. Locations of items and Pokemon on the floor become visible. I have it put in my notes here. Yeah, baby! This is a must-have in every single dungeon in the post-game. Knowledge of Pokemon locations is so important for not getting one-shot by distance moves and not getting caught off guard, and item locations can alert you to monster houses and Kecleon shops. Plus, being able to plan your route around the items is nice. S. And that'll do it. That's all those held items. So looking back through them, there's definitely a lot of them that are a lot more useful than a lot of the rare qualities, so it's a bit of a weird situation in this game specifically, since Wonder Mail doesn't really work the way that it did in the previous games. In this game, there's not like a Wonder Mail for every single item, so you actually do have to find these items in the dungeons themselves. But once you do find them, you know, you're set. You'll have them forever. Unless you die, that is, but you know, having the good ones hopefully prevents you from dying. Anyway, if you have a certain item that you use all the time, and you think I missed some specific about it that I just didn't think of, like maybe the Insomnicsope not making you sleep is really good for some move I didn't know about, but if you do have any of those experiences, please tell me. Otherwise, that'll do it. Thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you in another video.